Hello, and welcome back to another episode of General Conference Conversations, the podcast where we have conversations about General Conference. I'm your host, Kaylin, and I'm super excited to be here with you guys today, studying the words of Christ's chosen leaders. And today, we get to talk about Elder Dushku's talk. I really hope I'm saying his name right. It's called Pillars and Rays. And as always, I encourage you to read, watch, or listen to this talk before you listen to me talk about it, so you can get your own insights and your own promptings and everything like that. But I'm going to jump right in to summarize. His talk is all about personal revelation and how individual and unique it is. He kind of retells the first story, the first vision, and then kind of the rest of his talk is like reassuring us that if we never have an experience like that, it's okay. We're still faithful, and that we can be spoken to in a million very personal ways. He says that right up front. He says, and yet every one of us is different. No two people experience God's light and truth in exactly the same way. Take some time to think about how you experience the light and spirit of the Lord. And that's something I'm very passionate about, and if you listen to the podcast for a while, then you'll know that. We often speak about personal revelation in very, very specific ways, about like the Lord speaking to us, right? Like in the scriptures, it's usually recorded as, and the Lord spake unto me and said, and then it has specific words that the Lord has spoken to this person. And there's not a lot about impressions or feelings or whatever. There are a little bit, right? Like, oh, and there was an immense feeling of peace that settled over the people or settled over me or whatever. But it's definitely not as prolific as and the Lord spake to me and said, da-da-da-da-da. And so, as someone who like maybe once has had a spiritual impression where it was like words came into my mind, that can feel kind of like you're doing something wrong, right? Or that you like don't have enough faith to get experiences like the first vision or like having the Lord actually speak to you in your mind. And it can make you feel like you're doing something wrong, like you're not worthy enough, or that you're not feeling the Spirit at all, right? And that's what Elder Dushku actually starts his talk by saying. He says, this is for people who question their testimony because they haven't had big spiritual experiences in their life. You're not a failure. And so I love this section where he lists a bunch of different ways to feel the Spirit and to get personal revelation. I very much encourage you to read through that and then look for ways that you've seen the Spirit work in your life. In my life, the Spirit has spoken to me in a million different ways, and it depends on the situation, it depends on where I'm at in my life, and like maybe once, right, it's been a pillar of light or the Lord speaking to my mind. The rest has been little nudges, little things that remind me to hope, little moments that remind me of God's love. And so take Elder Dushku's invitation. How do you feel the Spirit in your life? It's going to be very specific to you. The other kind of part of his talk is these little tiny things are going to add up line upon line. He says, these are some of my rays. He talks about some of his experiences in his life. He says, you have had your own experiences, your own light-filled bursts of testimony. As we recognize, remember, and gather these rays together in one, something wonderful and powerful begins to happen. Light cleaveth unto light. Truth embraceth truth. The reality and power of one ray of testimony reinforces and combines with another, and then another, and another. Line upon line, precept upon precept, here a ray and there a ray, one small treasured spiritual moment at a time, there grows up within us a core of light-filled spiritual experiences. Perhaps no one ray is strong enough or bright enough to constitute a full testimony, but together they can come to become a light that the darkness of doubt cannot overcome. And this is a principle that we're taught over and over, right? Line upon line, here a little and there a little. And I think that's why it's so crazy to me that we still have this kind of belief and kind of a culture of you have to have big testimony building experiences to have a testimony, right? And I don't know how that happens. I don't know if that's just like we're people and so we're impatient and we just want one big thing to show us, right? We want a sign. We want one big sign to tell us that this is what we're supposed to be believing. But we have this principle. We hear this principle all the time, little by little, line upon line, right? And like along with the variety of the way that the Lord speaks to me, it's been with small things that stack until it does sometimes feel like God is whacking me over the head with a shovel. Like all those little things that finally come together and you have an aha moment of, oh, right, over the last 2 years, this is what's happened. And I was asked a lot on my mission about that, about, what was the moment that I knew the Book of Mormon was true? Or what was the moment that I knew the gospel was true, the church was true, or a specific gospel truth was true? And I could never give just one moment, right? I haven't had a Joseph Smith first vision experience. I didn't have a lightning bolt come down when I was reading the Book of Mormon and say, this is the truth. It was a lot of different things, and a lot of little things, a lot of reading the Book of Mormon every day and seeing the small effects it had on my life, or praying every day and seeing the effects it had on my life, or hearing and feeling God's love over years to convince me, to grow my faith in the fact that he loves me. Then I knew, right? So what does that look like in your life too? Not only how does the Spirit speak to you, but how do those little things build and build and build to have big moments of kind of revelation. That's all I've got for you today. We've gotten to kind of the first week, right? The end of the first week of this kind of new format. Like I said, it's going to be very short. It's going to be very different. This works better for me to have. It doesn't take quite as long to record things and edit things. And so I hope you're still getting something out of these and that that you still enjoy. So let me know how you like this. Also, let me know thoughts about this talk in the comments or on Instagram or Facebook, or you can always shoot me an email or a message. I really love to hear your guys' thoughts. So I'll talk to y'all next time.